Hey you guys! Yesterday we struggled a little bit in science lab coming up with different solids that changed into a liquid. So what I'm going to do today, right now in the video, is I'm going to show you guys some solids that might change into a liquid, but they might not. There's a good possibility they might not, because not every solid changes into a liquid, especially not with the hairdryer that I'm going to use. So the first item we have is a cup. And then we have a piece of soap, a dime, a chocolate chip, Crisco, which is a lot like butter, a little bit of a lipstick, a crayon, a candle, and then a marshmallow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the hairdryer. It's going to be a little loud, and you're going to watch to see if there's anything happening. Now, it might not be a rapid change all of a sudden, but it might be something that happens. So I just want you to watch to see if it goes from the big solid state of all those molecules being packed together and can barely move to a liquid that can flow a little bit and the molecules get to move around a little bit more. Okay? So here we go. Start with the Crisco. Now friends, I have it on low, so that way it doesn't blow my stuff all over. But I just want you to look at it. What do you notice about it now? Maybe it's starting to change just a little bit in its texture. Ooh, it's starting to get nice and shiny, which means it's probably starting to turn into a what? A liquid. And if you notice what happened at the bottom, what happened at the bottom of that? Let's look. What does it now become? It has now become a liquid. Okay, moving right along. We are going to try out, we're going to try out the chocolate chip. So I want you to just watch the chocolate chips and see what happens. I did have them in my freezer for a little while because they got too hot and they didn't melt. So we're going to see if we can melt it. Notice the Crisco is already a liquid now. So here we go. Sorry friends, it's hard to hold the hairdryer and do the camera at the same time. Now I'm noticing a little bit of a shine. Maybe it's turning a little bit from where it was originally. I'm going to watch it a little bit more and then we're going to move on to the next item. So the chocolate chip, you might notice, is taking a little while longer, but it is essentially, turning into a liquid. You can tell it's starting to glisten. If I touch it with my finger, it's all mushy. So I can mush it down, which means it's slowly turning into a liquid. But it'll take a lot longer. Now let's try the lipstick. Again, it might not mush into it might not turn exactly into a liquid, but as long as we can tell that something has happened, then we know that it is a changing state. Now while I'm thinking about it, friends, a gas can also turn back into a liquid. We watched that from condensation. We watched that in our brain pop video. But a liquid, if I turned this Crisco into a liquid all the way, and then I got it really, really hot and put it in a pan, it would turn into a wet. A gas, you're right. So you probably can't tell. I can tell that it's gotten a little bit shinier on top, which means it's now pretty hot. If your mom ever leaves a lipstick stick in the car, she will slowly find it's melted all the way down if it's in the hot, hot summer. Now, of course, if I was outside in the summertime, this liquid would probably melt a lot faster or a lot slower. What do you guys think? Yeah, a lot faster because the heat from the sun is going to make it melt. Now the interesting thing is I don't know if y'all can see, I'm going to point it out. My hairdryer is pointing this way, but it's also attached to this crayon. And look what has happened to this crayon. This crayon is slowly starting to become a what? A liquid. It's dripping off, and it's now becoming a liquid, which is kind of cool. Now, does anybody know what a crayon is actually made of? It's made of wax. See, there's the liquid falling off right there. A crayon is made of wax. Same thing that a candle is made from. So you know when a candle burns, and it gets really hot and it's been burning for a while, it has that big pool of liquid. That's from the heat from the fire. So there's the liquid again on the crayon. So a crayon's a solid, but it can turn into a what? A liquid when you apply heat. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I don't know if you can tell, but the lipstick has actually started to get a little bit... Oh, look at that. I can touch it. It's crazy. It's really hot, too. So I'm going to put it back. Okay, let's look at the cup. Now, I'm going to sit here for a second, and I'm going to try to blow dry the cup. I'll tell you, it's getting warm, but is my heat going to be enough to melt it down? No. It probably could have melt down eventually, but my heat wouldn't melt it. Okay, let's try the soap now and see what happens when we do the soap. Like I said, it's a solid piece of soap. So since this is a big, big, big solid piece of soap, it's probably going to take a little while, kind of like the lipstick. Now notice the heat, while I'm waiting on that, the heat is off the lipstick, and guess what? It's turned into a nice solid again. Look at that. Because the cool air is not on it, it is a solid. Same with the crayon. The crayon is now a solid. It's not going to drip off anything because it's cooled down again. So the coolness condenses it and makes it a solid again. Pretty cool. I'm going to give it a few more minutes on the soap. Now, I want you to think, if I left this soap out in the sun for an hour or two in the middle of the day, what would happen? It'd probably melt. Now, because it's a thick piece of soap, do you think it's going to sit here and melt in my hand? Nah, probably not. But I can tell you that the soap is a lot like the lipstick and crayon, so eventually over time it would melt. Let's move to the dime and see if anything happens to the dime when I heat it up. Nothing really. Now I'll tell you, the dime, if I was to heat the dime up in an actual factory where they take metal and turn it back into the actual metal instead of the coin and remold it into something else, and of course, but those places have a ton of intense heat and they can handle it. So I want to go back and look at the chocolate chip now. I know I haven't done the candle. I'm going to get there. This chocolate chip, it's still kind of soft because the heat was right next to it, but it's not completely a liquid. My Crisco, guess what, you guys? It's turned back into a solid. Yes, this looks like it's a liquid, but guess what? It's not. I can't put it up off my finger. It's not a liquid. This, where I pulled it off a second ago, I'm pushing down, and guess what? I got nothing. Because it's no longer liquid, the cool has condensed it back into a solid. The crayon, you can tell that it was melted from the heat of the hairdryer, but it has now become a what again? It has now become a solid again, which means nothing's going to drip off like it did right here. Okay, the last one I have for you is going to be the candle, and I will light the candle. Just give me 1 second to do that. Because, like I said, the sun's not the only way to get heat. Oops, my hand's in the way, sorry. The hairdryer. There we go. Isn't the only way to get heat. You can also use fire as your heat. So I'm curious, and I'm just going to hold the fire over the candle. Ooh, that is turning to a liquid fast. Look at that. Okay. Oops, I blew it out. Silly Miss Gold. Let me try that again. But it's very interesting. The crayon turned very quickly into a liquid. Why do you think that is? Oop. Why do you think that the crayon turned really quickly into a liquid? By me holding this over it. What kind of heat does this match give off? A lot or a little? Probably a lot, yeah. So if I was to hold it over the soap, what do you think would happen? Very interesting. I'm going to try one more with the soap because I kind of want you guys to see it. So I'm going to get it. And while we're waiting, I'm going to hold this over the soap just so you can see it. Now it is burning it, yes. But it did kind of turn into a liquid, so it depends on the heat. Now, look at the candle again. It went from, the crayon. Look, I burned it down, I melted it down, but now it's a solid again because there's no heat on it. So last but not least, I want you to look at the candle. You'll notice it started out as a solid, the outside edges are a solid, but if you look closely, the very center of it, no, I did not touch the flame. But the very center of it is actually turned into a liquid, and I can show you that by moving it, okay? So it's pretty cool how a solid can change not only into a liquid, but then it can change back into a solid from that liquid state once the heat is removed. So pretty cool, you guys. Thanks for sticking with me.